Being bored is supremely underrated as a source of inspiration, innovation, and creativity. Last week, this really crystallized for me once again because I was sitting here in my office working on content, pre-planning, pre-scheduling content for my online business and podcast so I could take maternity leave in 3 months' time for 3 or 4 months. And what I was really doing was scripting out videos, kind of ideating on what would be like a good 3-month plan or schedule of content ideas and topics, and then fleshing all of those out. And the reason I was doing this because I do want to take maternity leave for at least 3 months, hopefully 4, to spend time with my infant and my toddler son. So here I am sitting at my desk, just like thinking through, okay, what does my audience want to hear? What can I publish? What's going to resonate? And I was just pushing against the grain, and it was after lunch. I was tired. I'm pregnant. And I just kept pushing through, being like, no, this was on my task list for Monday, like must do this. And then I was like, fuck this, I'm exhausted. I'd spent an hour kind of going through my to-do list and resisting it, and then jumping on social media because I was tired and I wanted that dopamine hit. So I'm like, cycle, laptop, to-do list, can't be fucked, too tired, don't want a nap. Let me go on social, that's gonna wake me up. And so I'm like going through this dopamine cycle, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just fucking done with this. Like, I just need to take a break and have a reset button. And what I did was I just made a coffee and I went outside, and I just didn't do anything. I was like, no, Mel, don't do anything. Just sit and hang out and like whatever, just fuck around for a bit. Like it's not a big deal. And I did that. And what happened is I kind of eased into, it took me a while to ease into not doing anything. You know, I did some mindfulness with my coffee and feeling the grass in between my toes. And then, 20 minutes passes, 30 minutes passes, and I'm like, okay, like I'm bored again. I'm ready to do something, like essentially get the momentum going, because I'd kind of taken that break and gotten like refreshed. So in the process of just like taking that break and then feeling rested and then getting bored again, I started to ideate on all of these, like this flood of ideas came through to me. And I was like, oh, that's an episode, that's an episode, that's an episode. And probably in the span of like 20 minutes, I like had all of these ideas, rough sketches of how that was going to look like. And I realized, so the biggest takeaway here for me was I started to be like, oh shit, when I get bored, creativity comes from within. It's not something that I'm going to find on social media. It's not necessarily something that I'm going to sit down for 5 hours and force myself to write down just because that was my quote plan for the day. But creativity comes from having that space, that spaciousness, just to be like, okay, what am I feeling? What's like the intuitive hit here? What's the download? And then turning that into something. And I can guarantee that those ideas that came through were not something that I would have found at my desk, reading through my laptop of ideas, for hours on end. So creativity really comes from within. And that was such a big lesson. And the other question that I like to ask myself in this time is, you might be bored, you're overstimulated, you're like on social, you just need to pull back. And the question I like to ask myself is like, what do I feel like doing right now? Because I'm not feeling good doing all of these activities. So I'll say, oh, okay, like what do I feel like doing? In your body, is it like, most of the time for me at 7 months pregnant, it is just fucking napping. Sometimes it's going for a walk on my walking pad. Sometimes it's just, breathing or having a cup of tea, or I don't even know, just like resting my eyes for a minute. So what do I feel like doing right now? And then you can do that, but also allow yourself, your mind to wander, to get bored, to create that spaciousness. And in that spaciousness is the gold mine where you're going to be able to find those pieces that you wouldn't necessarily have listened to or heard, like in the noise of constantly doing things and being on autopilot and being on, just running these programs that we have throughout our day of like mother, employee, wife, chef, cleaner, all these other jobs that like aren't jobs, but that's kind of a role that we fit into. We get really, really lost in all of these things, and we forget to see we forget to really hear, like, what is at the essence? Where's that creativity and that innovation going to lead you to? And I almost guarantee it's going to be so amazing, so fun. And that's the message that I have for you today. So go out, get bored, give yourself permission to not fucking do anything. See what comes through, see what you hear, see what you feel. If you have any visions, document them, and then go make something creative.